What's going on, everybody? It's your man Cleveland Terry, and it's been about a month since I received the Pioneer DJM S11 for review. Now, if you saw my first review, which happened a couple of days after I received it, I gave a first look, hands-on breakdown of the mixer. So that's a super long video. It's about 33 minutes. This video won't be that long. This time I want to talk about my experience, how I felt using this mixer for the past month. So before I give my breakdown, spoiler alert, it is a fantastic mixer. Absolutely a joy to use. But as I've said, and I will continue to say for every single review that I ever do, there is no such thing as a perfect mixer. So we're going to talk about the good points and the bad points of this mixer. This is probably the most well thought out mixer that I have actually ever used. The way this is set up, the design, the layout, the way things just kind of fit where they're supposed to fit, go where they're supposed to go. Your hands naturally go to the places that you think they should be. It's not too busy. It's just enough to give you kind of what you need. So if I need to go to the filter, the channel strip is right here, breaks down everything right here in a nice little line. They haven't broken things out and moved them to the side. It's all right there. If you're used to the S9, this entire layout is gonna look exactly the same. So you're gonna have a nice comfort when you transition over to this new mixer. One of the things they talked about was the sound of the mixer. Does it sound better than the S9? And I'm gonna tell you this. First off, full disclosure, I haven't taken this mixer out on a live performance. The only performances I've done have come from within this house doing live streams, using my booth monitor, monitoring the sound that's coming out of this into my ATEM. It's a little limited. Unfortunately, in this climate, in this situation we're in, we're not really gonna be able to do a true, A-B comparison. But I will tell you this, it's a better sounding mixer. Now, here's the thing that I noticed when I first started using this compared to like a Rane 70 or Rane 72. When I was using the booth, I noticed that the Rane 70 sound was definitely beefier. As I started to A-B the sound coming out of the booth, I realized it's a difference in how each company is outputting their sound. Pioneer has definitely removed all the color out of the mixer. It is a very transparent, a very flat sound coming out of it. Is one better? Is one worse? No. A couple of adjustments here and there, and the sound was literally the same. All right, so let's test this out right now. We got Serato side, we got traditional vinyl side. All right, here we go. Keep in mind, 12 o'clock on both sides here, 12 o'clock. Vinyl side, let's bring it up. Both at around 12 o'clock. I'll turn it up to like 12 and a half. So basically what I'm saying is I didn't have to do any adjustments to get my records to sound just as good as my Serato. Now, before we go to the top panel and talk about the good and the bad, we're gonna talk about the bad. And the bad is, of course, there is no split cue on this mixer. So hopefully that is something that they put into a firmware update at some point, because I know it's a possibility. They just have to throw it in there. I'm never gonna love the fact that the microphone jacks are on the front panel. I would rather have them on the top panel, but that's just my issue. Some people seem to be completely fine with it. Let's talk about the screen, because the screen for me is something that's completely new. All of my mixers before this always had the little screens. The Rane 70, the Rane 62, the S9, all had the little screen. So having access to this larger screen, I was concerned that it was gonna take a while to get used to. That's not the case here. Everything flows really nicely on this touchscreen. Now, it is worth noting that for a lot of people that do get a little shell-shocked by the screen, most of the things that you do, you don't actually need the screen for. You can do most of the things just by touching. Here's all of your effects. Here's your Serato effects. Here's your depth knob. Here's your toggles. There's your cue points. So you don't necessarily need to go into this system. And once you prepare the way you normally prepare by setting up your effects the way you want them to, it makes it a lot easier. For instance, for me, I like using the ducking echo. It's actually one of my favorite echoes and my favorite things about this mixer. However, I still like using the echo too. So if this were another system, I would have to go into a series of panels in order to switch this out. I don't have to on this one because this one has effects banks. So that's really, really important here. So if you click on your echo and you go to your effects, you have the option to set all of these, but you have multiple banks here. C, D, 4 different banks that you can use. So what I've done is I've added the ducking echo to bank 2 in my echo 1. So what that does is, if I'm in echo, all I have to do is hold shift and then move to the next bank, and I'm in ducking echo all of a sudden. I don't have to go into the mixer to make those quick changes. Anything that is not necessarily something you would want to use every single time, those are the types of things that you would put on the other banks. If I wanted to, I could go right in here, I could switch this, and then I can change my FX1, or I can go back and add my ducking echo right there. Super easy, so you don't have to go in the screen. You can affect all of this stuff without touching it. Speaking of screen versus hardware buttons, there is something that I do want changed in the future. Everybody knows there is this new feature called gate queue. So if you hit the double click, it's going to take you to this gate queue. So if I press the button, it's going to mute it. If I hold it down, it's going to activate the actual sound. Now, to get this thing to play properly, I just have to hit the Q button again and it plays. Got it? Here's the thing though. You know I love a hardware silent Q. It's not like that here. So the gate queue works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for me, it's an added step. I prefer the ease of just hitting the button and then having it activate without thinking about it. That's the whole point of the silent Q feature. Now, my problem with the silent Q is the silent Q is in the touch MIDI. This is the front page. This is MIDI A. So you have your internals, your key locks, your key up and down. In all honesty, I'm just gonna say flat out, I don't know anybody that needs to have the key up and key down pitch on the front page. I think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary on this front page. So in order to get to silent Q, you have to go to the second page. That is an added step that I don't think is necessary, especially for a button that I think is going to be utilized more than you know. I want B to be my first page. I should be able to set that and forget it. Or allow me to move things around where I can move the silent Q back to deck A and get rid of this key up and key down. Here is my favorite recommendation. I think this would solve everything. Okay, let's say that you happen to be in the waveforms. Now on the waveforms, on the top, you have this sync option right here. These syncs and your key lock and all of these things. So here's my solution. If you go over to your settings, you go to waveform display contents, you have these two options right here. So you have the option to have sync and key lock button on, and you have the option to have the effects display on. Got it? So my solution would be on the waveform display contents, just add another protocol that will basically shift this whole thing up, and then you can have your silent Q off and on that you can put on the top. So if I turn off the sync button, I'm gonna turn it on in this case, and pretend that was the silent Q, I go back, and now my silent Q buttons are right here, left and right. I think that's a great idea. There are some things that are designed by Serato and Pioneer that are exclusive to this mixer, and one of them is Scratch Bank. The Scratch Bank is absolutely amazing. It completely changes the way you use a sampler. It's so good that I almost question the need for the sampler. See, for me, I think the Scratch Bank overshadows the sampler. So I would have preferred that the Scratch Bank be on the top here. So right now you default to your sampler. I gotta hold Shift and Sampler to activate my Scratch Bank. I want my Scratch Bank to be on the top row. Now, the reason why I want my scratch bank to be on the top row is because I can see even more functionality that comes from that. So in case you didn't know, you haven't looked at my old video yet, you can have dual pad modes on here just by holding, for instance, the hot cue and the roll. So now I have my hot cues and then I have my rolls. I can go to my sampler. Now what would be even cooler? I could have the scratch bank on top, then I can hold the hot cue in the scratch bank, and then I would have all of my scratch bank sounds down here, or vice versa, and I can have the actual hot cues for the scratch bank here. So say for instance, I load in a song, these hot cues could potentially change to the song I just loaded in. That way I don't have to do more buttons than I need to. That makes sense to me, especially if you are trying to use this as kind of like a remix deck. Let's say for instance, you're doing Red Bull and you have all of your songs lined up here. Wouldn't it be great is if you hit that song, your cue points popped up so you can scratch the part you want to do and then maybe go to the bass line of the song and just have it keep switching from there. Anyway, future firmware updates, maybe. So this is exclusive to this mixer. I don't know if there's a time range with this exclusivity. So for right now, this is the only mixer that has it. Speaking of things that this mixer has and others don't have, the smooth echo, the mashup, all of these things are specific to this mixer and you're not going to see these on other mixers. The smooth echo effect is one of the coolest features out right now. The ability to just turn it on and have it set to how you play. For instance, I want that echo to go when I load a cue point, when I close the crossfader, when I go into silent cue, when I load a song, the channel fader, like all of these options are right here, and it removes some of those excess things that you've always had to remember to do. A couple of times I've done mixes and it's been on and I didn't realize that it was on, and it really like smooth, hence the word, it really smoothed out my mix without me having to do anything. The smooth echo, as great as it is, sometimes it can get in the way. If you're doing long form mixes and things like that, it's going to be perfect for you. But if you're doing scratches and beat juggles and all those things, the smooth echo can definitely get in the way. Besides that, it is a fantastic feature. Another feature, again, specific to this mixer is the mashup. And the mashup is really, really cool. If you saw my last video, I went into a great detail about how to apply it, how to make it work. It's a really, really cool thing. It's not something that people will necessarily automatically take to, but I think it's something that if you're very, very creative, you're gonna love this kind of live remix feel. It's super, super dope. As I said in my previous review of the mashup, I just wish it was easier to kind of get to it. There's too many button presses for me in order for me to use it like every single time. But it's a great feature nonetheless, and a lot of these things are specific not only to this mixer, but specific to the Serato version of this mixer. If you open up Rekordbox, you're not gonna have the ability at this time to use Scratch Bank. Scratch Bank disappears. Smooth echo is obviously there, but the mashup remix effect is not on the Rekordbox system. They do have dual deck, so you can still use dual deck. You can still bump those tracks over to 3 and 4, but you don't have the mashup ability. So for anybody that uses Rekordbox, it's still a great mixer. You still have access to all the effects, all the cool things, but it is missing, I want to say, 2 of the coolest things that are out there. And the fact that those aren't on there, in all honesty, kind of prevents me from actually using the Rekordbox version. I have Rekordbox. I used it, I loaded it up, it was great, but it felt like I was just using a normal mixer. Going from Serato to Rekordbox, it feels like a bit of a step down. Now, for some people that are asking about Virtual DJ, I did load up Virtual DJ. It does load up, it does work. However, the screen doesn't work from what I've seen, at least in this version, and maybe they have a beta that's out there that I haven't touched. So before you jump down my throat, I'm only going off of the working version right now. It works, the cue points don't work on here, but as you know, with Virtual DJ, you can use the cue points on your screen, like for instance on your MacBook Pro, you can use the touch bar. It works just fine. Everything works, it's just that you don't have access to the screen. I cannot answer that as of yet, and this is the reason. I haven't personally used the Range 72 MK2 enough to actually give a quality endorsement for or against. I will be using that soon, but I will exclusively be on the Range 72, testing it out, and maybe I can give an opinion. I will say this though, the S11 is, again, a great mixer. And if you're coming from the S9 and you're wondering if you should upgrade, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Now, if you are a Range 70 guy, the Range 70 is a great mixer. If you have a Range 70 right now and you have buyer's remorse, I don't think you need to. I think both mixers can exist in the same space. We're at a point in time where at a certain price point, you're gonna get a fantastic mixer no matter how hard you try. I've had so much fun using this mixer. It has so many things that I love using every single day. I rarely have to think about what I'm doing on this mixer. Everything just kind of feels right. The ergonomics are on point, and that's really what you want with the mixer. You want everything to feel like, hey, it should be here. This should be here. When I do this, I think it should do that. And that's how it should feel, and that's how it should react. I have been super impressed by this mixer, and I think you will be too. If you found what I said here useful, hit that like button. If you found what I said here really useful, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on the Instagrams and the Twitters. Let me know in the comments below what you want to do. What you decided to do after you've seen all of these mixers out there. What is your go-to mixer right now? Leave it in the chat below. Guys, always a pleasure. If I don't talk to you later, we'll talk soon. Peace.